It's been 3,650 days since the last time the Colts started the season 1-0. This Sunday, September 10th, will the streak end at 3,654 days, or will the streak last at least another 366 days? What's going on, everyone, and welcome back to the 12th Horseshoe podcast on Surge Sports TV. I am your host, Jack Rizzo. Thank you, everyone, for joining me tonight as I preview the Colts Week 1 matchup against the Jacksonville Jaguars, which takes place about 4 days from now. Football's finally back, guys. We've been waiting a long time. But when we play on Sunday, it will have been 245 days since the last time the Colts suited up for a game. And obviously, the end of last year didn't really bring a lot of promise. So for this Sunday, we'll have some promise for the Colts for the first time since I don't even know when, but should be a fun one. I'm going to preview the matchup today. Should be a pretty good one. Good AFC South battle. The Jags, of course, won the division last year. They are the favorites. They're the 5-point favorites on the road. Colts now have not won the division since 2014. Have the longest drought of a division title in the AFC South. Again, should be an interesting game. I gave the score prediction yesterday, and Eli and I's prediction of all 16 games across the NFL for Week 1. And I just want to mention real quick, yes, I did see the news that Nick Bosa got extended earlier today by the 49ers. However, I am still picking the Steelers to win the game. So Nick Bosa's contract did not affect the outcome of that game, in my opinion. I still think the Steelers are going to win. But enough of that. Let's get into the Colts game. There is a lot to look forward to in this game. Of course, it's the first game for new head coach Shane Steichen, the first game for new quarterback Anthony Richardson. This is a really young team, and a lot of these players are extremely inexperienced. So it's good, and it's also going to be the first time starting for a lot of players on both sides of the ball. There is certainly a lot to look forward to this Sunday. A new chapter begins for the Indianapolis Colts. Lots of preview for this game. Let me start off, though, before talking about the game itself. Let's talk about the injury report, which came out today. There's just 2 Colts that are currently on the injury report. Running back Zach Moss, who's recovering from a broken arm he suffered earlier in camp. He did practice limited today. He is listed on the Colts official depth chart as the starter at running back. So we'll have to see. Looks like his chances might be pretty strong for him to play Sunday. Of course, Shane Steichen's already come out and said that the Colts will be doing a running back by committee because Jonathan Taylor is still not back on the PUP list, and he will be out for at least the first 4 games of the season. It could be longer. I mean, I'm not really sure how long Jonathan Taylor is going to be out, or if he ever even plays for the Colts again. But that's a conversation for another day. Also, EJ Speed is back. He's out of concussion protocol, so he's good to go for Sunday. Injury report not looking too bad, but let's not. Obviously, the Colts will be without Jelani Woods and Jonathan Taylor, so two big offensive weapons for them last year not playing. Of course, Ashton Dune, who's big on special teams, is out for the year. Shaq Leonard, again, still in the concussion protocol. Shane Steichen has said he's progressed, but that's kind of been what he said the last week. And I believe he has to get cleared by either tomorrow or Friday if he'll be able to play on Sunday. So keep an eye on that. All right, so I think the first thing we have to talk about is quarterback Anthony Richardson. Now, we're super pumped when we drafted him. He's made some great plays in camp. Now is the time where things actually count, and the games start to count, and there's going to be a lot more pressure on Anthony Richardson. But to quote something he said earlier today, he said something very interesting, that pressure is only for the unprepared. So I love the confidence in this kid. I mean, he's 21 years old. Coaches, players, Jim Irsay, they've all spoken very highly of AR throughout camp. His ability to command the offense, his work ethic. Shane Steichen said that yesterday, even though it was an off day for the players, he spent 9 hours at the facility getting ready for the game. So clearly, if the Colts do not win this Sunday, preparation will not be the issue because Anthony's going all out for this. This is important to him to try to win, get and win his first game as a Colt. Now, the last Colts quarterback to win their first start, crazy enough, you have to go all the way back to 1955 when George Shaw won his first start as a Colt. Obviously, Peyton Manning and Andrew Luck both lost their first games as a Colt. Luck in Week 1 of the 2012 season to the Chicago Bears, and Peyton Manning in Week 1 of 1998 at home against the Miami Dolphins. Now, obviously, a lot of people are expecting the Jags to win this game, and I do pretty much agree with that, but my main point in this show is to talk about why I think the Colts can win on Sunday. I'm not saying they will, but why I think they can win. So back to again, AR. Again, I think he's going to show flashes. That's for sure. I mean, maybe just because of the fact that he's going to be able to throw the ball 15 yards down the field. Unlike Matt Ryan last year, he's going to be able to run the ball as well. Really confident in this first team offensive line to be able to protect solidly for AR. The second team line is a different story. That is extremely concerning especially after losing Danny Pinter to the season because of a broken ankle. So obviously, if one of our linemen get hurt, it's the line room does get pretty thin. So have to keep that in mind. I think Anthony's going to struggle though at points Sunday. He's not going to be perfect. Probably going to throw quite a few interceptions this year just because, again, he's going to be throwing the ball a lot. He's going to take shots downfield. Of course, Shane Steichen has a much more aggressive offensive scheme than Frank Wright does. Loves to throw the ball deep, loves to get vertical. So expect AR, though, to try some vertical throws this on Sunday. Some of them might not be great. But again, AR is going to show flashes, and regardless, it's going to be fun. And another thing to keep in mind is that this is probably this is like the first time probably in a long time where the Colts aren't even expected to win in week one. I mean, really, each of the last, even all the week one games we've lost over the years, we still were expected to win most of them. We just can't because of our week one luck. But this game, pretty much everyone I've talked to is expecting the Jags to win. And again, it's pretty obvious because I have them winning as well. But again, I want to talk about why I think the Colts can win this game. So Anthony Richardson, I think again to cap it off, I think he is going to show flashes. He's definitely going to shine. I think he's going to run the ball really well, but he's going to have struggles passing the ball. Wouldn't be surprised if he has a couple of turnovers on Sunday. But again, it's all about improving throughout the season, and I'm glad they're throwing him out there week one. Get him as many reps as possible, and he'll be able to learn from it throughout the season. And remember, the kid's still just 21 years old. He is the third youngest starting quarterback in NFL history, behind Sam Darnold and another quarterback that I'm forgetting, who I believe started in the 90s for a certain team. All right, let's talk about the rest of the Colts offense, because obviously Richardson's only one of the 11 players that play on this side of the ball. So let's talk about the offense, though. First, the offensive line, which was the main issue last year for the Colts. Pretty simple. They just have to play better than they did last year. Didn't really give Matt Ryan, Nick Foles, or Sam Ehlinger, whoever was behind center, really any time to throw the ball. Now, Matt Pryor, I think, was the majority of those problems because Quinn Nelson, Ryan Kelly, Braden Smith, they were all trying to help Pryor out. And by doing so, their numbers went significantly down. They all had down seasons for their standards. But Will Fries has had a solid camp, looks like a pretty solid right guard. Bernard Raymond's had a really good camp, really good pass protection grades in all the preseason games. I think he should be a massive improvement this year. Hopefully the long-term replacement for Anthony Costanzo that we've been looking for. And yeah, so hopefully the offensive line can play better than they did last year and play like the 2018 group that took the Colts from 4-12 back to the playoffs. Now, I don't think this 2023 team is nearly as good as that 2018 team was, but I hope you guys can see where I am drawing that point from. In terms of the skill position players on offense, the wide receivers have got to step up. They did not have a great preseason, especially Alec Pierce. 5 targets, no catches, had a couple of drops. One in the end zone, of course, in that first game against Buffalo. Rough game against Philly. Just wasn't able to get any separation. Pittman, it's hard to speak on. Didn't really see too many targets in the preseason, but we know he's going to produce. He produced last year with 3 mediocre to awful quarterbacks. Produced with Carson Wentz in 2021. So, and you could definitely say that Anthony Richardson's the best quarterback that Pittman's ever had up to this point. Expect him to have a really good year and get paid next offseason. Can't wait to see what Josh Downs has. Had a really solid camp. He looks like he's going to be the day one starting slot receiver, at least on the first unofficial depth chart. Maybe kick return and punt return duties as well, but more concerned with his production on the offensive side of the ball. And again, we got to see Downs and Alec Pierce really step up. Isaiah McKenzie is back after being temporarily released during roster cuts last week. He'll be kind of the gadget guy the Colts use. I would expect him to have a big role with the team this season, even though he lost the starting job in the slot, he's still going to have a big role in gadget plays, design runs, probably kick and punt returns maybe as well. So Isaiah McKenzie for sure will have a big role. Now keep in mind, the Colts only have 4 receivers currently on the active roster. So expect a practice squad call up later this week, whether it be Juwan Winfrey or Mike Strawn, or I think Amari Rodgers is also back on the practice squad. I think special teams will have a factor in who they decide to bring up to the roster, but Yeah, because to be honest, to be honest, I don't think you could. I don't really think there's a world where you could only play with 4 wide receivers. Um, Okay, next up, let's talk about the tight end room. Of course, tight end room was a little shorthanded this week because Jelani Woods is still out with the hamstring injury that he suffered earlier in camp. He is not going to play until he's on IR, so he's out for at least the first 4 weeks. Really hurts that one. That one really hurts because we were all expecting Jelani to really take a step forward this year, be the number one tight end, but he is out. So we're gonna have to see Kylan Granson, Drew Ogletree really step it up. This is probably a make or break year for Kylan Granson. Has shown flashes in the first 2 years, but is still yet to find the end zone in his NFL career. Had a really good camp. Was the only tight end that was really healthy, so expect him to get the majority of the reps. Drew Ogletree, really like him as well. Really good run blocker, could be a good goal line guy. Will Mallory had some flashes in camp. Mo Cox, I'm not really that high on. I honestly don't know why he's still here. But at least can somewhat produce in this offense, whatever way that might be. But yeah, the tight ends definitely have to step up, especially with probably their best one in Jelani Woods out for this week. So with him and Jonathan Taylor out, that's 2 important skill position players that are out. So the Colts are going to have to be able to adjust to that. And speaking of Jonathan Taylor, let's now talk about the running backs. As I mentioned already, Shane Steichen is going with a running back committee in week 1. Deion Jackson, Evan Hull are going to see some reps. If Zach Moss is healthy, he'll probably be the lead back on like first and second down. So it should be interesting to see the distribution between the touches for those 3 guys. I like all 3 of them. I think they all bring different skill sets to the table and can really help this Colts rushing game. In week 1, even though Jonathan Taylor is not going to play, as I've mentioned a million times. But I am excited to see how Shane Steichen runs this offense because, I mean, the offense he ran last year was one of the best offenses over the last few years. So should be interesting. I'm looking forward. Super excited for this game. Mostly excited, though, because of the offensive side of the ball. That's really what I'm looking forward to. When I study film after this game, I'm mainly going to be looking at what the offense did because I think that's what everybody's more intrigued by because of how atrocious our offense was last year. All right, well, I'm not going to disregard defense, so let's move on to that side of the ball. A lot of talk about there as well. First, the front seven, which I believe is the strength of this whole team, offense, defense, and special teams. Really loaded here on the front seven, especially on the defensive line. Have probably maybe the best defensive tackle duo in football with DeForest Buckner and Grover Stewart. Kwity Paye showed some flashes last year at 6 sacks in 12 games. He's got to step it up this year in a make or break year. Samson Ebukam on the other side of the Colts side in free agency should contribute nicely in both the run game and the pass game. Pretty much just a more complete all-around player than Unique Ngakoue was. Tyquan Lewis and Dio Odangbo should see some third down packages on the defensive line. Expect them to both make a pretty big impact. You got some nice depth on the interior line with Tommy Adebawore, Taven Bryan, Eric Johnson, McTelvin and Jim, who had a really good camp. So, and something to keep in mind for the Colts front seven is that Jacksonville will not have either of their starting tackles from last year in this game. Jawan Taylor left for Kansas City in free agency, and Cam Robinson is suspended for the first 4 games of the season. So the Jags are short at the tackle position. So expect the Colts to try to generate some more defensive pressure, which ultimately will help them in at least keeping this game competitive. Now, unfortunately, for the Colts, despite the fact that the Colts front seven is good, the reason why this defense is going to struggle a lot in the beginning of the season is because of how bad the secondary is. Of course, our secondary is a lot more thin than last year. I mean, I'll just put it this way. Dallas Flowers went from being the second least experienced corner on the depth chart to the second most in one offseason. The only veteran guy who has really proven himself that is on this cornerback roster is Kenny Moore. And remember, he's a slot corner. Now, Kenny Moore did have a really good training camp, but he struggled. And last year, he struggled towards the end of 2021. Kenny has got to show, what he was before, the final stretch of 2021. Because other than him, there's really no proven corners on this roster. Now, Darrell Baker and Dallas Flowers both had pretty solid camps. But again, they have one combined career start between the two of them. So quite the drop-off from having an all-pro corner like Stephon Gilmore, who's still in his prime last year, along with Isaiah Rodgers, who just keep getting better and better every year. And by the way, Isaiah Rodgers signed with the Eagles in free agent. Signed with the Eagles, so he'll be back there next year. Knowing the Eagles, of course, they're going to turn him into a Pro Bowler. So really good scoop by them. Wishing the best for Isaiah. Just made a mistake, and it cost him. So hopefully, Isaiah is able to be okay. Yeah, so should be interesting for that. Now, in terms of why I think the secondary is going to struggle, I think the main reason is Calvin Ridley. I think he's going to be the X factor for this Jags offense. I think he's going to have a really good season. Obviously, suspended all of last year. He was one of the more underrated receivers in the games with Atlanta. He's going to line up alongside Christian Kirk and Zay Jones. That's a really good receiving core in Jacksonville. That's going to be really tough for the Colts to cover. They had problems with covering them in both the games last year, and now adding Calvin Ridley to this offense against a much worse secondary. That just spells doom for the Colts secondary. I already said I think Trevor Lawrence is going for over 350 yards and 4 touchdowns. 3 touchdowns. I'm sorry. 350 yards, 3 touchdowns, as ultimately the Jags are able to just make a really strong passing offense in this game. Now, if the Colts want to stay in this game, what they're going to have to do is they're going to have to generate a ton of defensive pressure. They're going to have to take advantage of both tackles not playing in this game and try to get some more defensive pressure because it'll ultimately affect the passing game and it should help the back end. A good front end always helps improve the back end. So the Colts are really going to have to get some great defensive pressure in this game in order for their secondary to at least, not look horrible. Quiddy Pay's really got to step up this year, as does Ebukam and Dio and all those guys. Because again, defensive pressure wins you games. I mean, look at how the Bucks in 2020 and the Broncos in 2015 won their Super Bowls. It was because of great defensive pressure. Now, even though I think the corners are going to struggle, on the bright side, it will be a good learning experience for them. And similar to what I said about AR, it's going to help them improve as the season goes on. All right, let's talk about one more thing on this defense, and it's Shaq Leonard. One of the most exciting defensive players in the NFL when he's on the field. That's the problem, though, is that he's had problems staying on the field. Now, of course, he had this ankle injury that plagued him the last few years. Said it's actually gone all the way back to week 4 of 2018. Crazy enough. I mean, it hasn't really affected his play, at least not until last year. Finally got another procedure, practiced all of camp. Now Shaq is in the concussion protocol, and he has been for like the last 3 weeks. So we're gonna have to see. And sorry about my wallpaper there. It's a dog. My dog came in. But anyways, Shaq is still yet to clear the protocol. Hopefully by tomorrow or Friday, or else he's actually not gonna play. So I'm starting to get a little worried about that. But talking about Shaq coming back to the field, watching him in camp, he just looked way more comfortable out there. Just looked much happier. Seems to be doing pretty well. Once he gets out of this concussion protocol, I expect him to have a pretty big bounce back season. Hopefully make it back to the Pro Bowl. He's the X factor in this Colts defense. In fact, this guy forces a million turnovers. It's got to be that at least. Interceptions, of course, his iconic punch, which knocks the ball out. Can also make plays with the ball in his hands when he gets the chance. And has just been one of the best linebackers, one of the better defensive players in the league since he entered the league in 2018. So hopefully Shaq is healthy and he's able to get back to his Pro Bowl form, because if he is, our defense, we're a much better football team when he is healthy. All right, we'll briefly touch on special teams, starting with our new kicker, Matt Gay. Biggest contract for a kicker ever. Now, of course, missed the 28-yarder earlier in this preseason. That was really concerning. I don't care if it's outside, if it was windy. You cannot have that happen. But looking aside that, he has been the NFL's most accurate kicker in 2021. Had another really good season. Last year, he's got a pretty big leg as well. So hopefully the kicking game improves. We have not had a stable kicking game since 2018 Adam Vinatieri. Remember, the 2019 version of Vinatieri was awful. Missed a ton of extra points. Cost us a few games because of his kicking woes. Hot rod struggle cost us several games. Missed 2 big kicks in 2020 in both week 1 and the playoff game. The Baltimore game in 2021, which was awful, and then missing the kick against Houston last year in the opener to cost us our first week 1 win in 9 years. So hopefully Matt Gay is able to solve our kicking problems, because again, kickers are really important. I mean, just look at Justin Tucker. He's pretty much been the Ravens offense for the last decade, and they've been a very successful team. And I think they owe a lot of it to their kicker, Justin Tucker. Now, getting Rigo Sanchez back after missing all of last year is going to be huge. He's one of the best punters in the league. He has drilled some punts in training camp. Drilled a 70-yarder during one of the practices. It's really good, did a nice job in the preseason against the Bears in joint practice. Had like a 70-yarder. Really athletic, really versatile punter with him. It's, again, huge to have him back. Don't disrespect punters. They can make some plays. I mean, remember when Pat McAfee drilled Trindon Holiday on the sideline during Colts-Broncos Sunday Nighter in 2013. But again, having Rigo back would be huge, because Matt Hawk was kind of a disaster last season. So I'm really glad we are getting Rigo back. And in terms of kick and punt returning, it's pretty much going to be kick returning. It's like, I would say, probably between McKenzie and Downs. I'd probably go with McKenzie, though, because he is not starting at the receiver, so that'll give him more kick returning opportunities. Now, Dallas Flowers did really well with kick returning last year, but now that he's a starting corner, that might mean that they pull him from those duties. Punt returning, maybe Josh Downs. I think they probably split Downs and McKenzie. One gets one, the other gets the other. But we'll just have to see. Of course, Downs has got great hands. I know he had that drop in the preseason game, but aside of that, he had the best hands in the draft. Isaiah McKenzie has shown a lot as a punt returner, even though he hasn't shown much as a receiver. I think our special teams unit will be massively improved. We did have very good special teams before last year, so hopefully that improves. Should be an interesting one. So actually, I don't really have much. So that's pretty much all the preview stuff that I have for you guys. Final score, I said it yesterday. I'll say it again. I've got the Jags winning this one, 27-17. For casual fans that don't root for either of these teams, it's probably a closer game than some fans might think. I know for you Colts fans watching this, I'm sure you guys are disappointed that I don't have us winning this one. But when you look at it on paper, the Jags are just clearly the better team. They have just a great passing attack, and that spells doom for our secondary. Their defense is going to get better from when they were last year. They've got the experience. They've got the coaching experience. Trevor Lawrence has been in the league now. This will be his third year. I think he's going to win the MVP this year, and this will be the start of it. But it should show some optimism, though, for the Colts if they were able to keep it at least somewhat close with, by far, the favorites in the AFC South. And I think ultimately this game is going to help the Colts improve throughout the season. But yes, unfortunately, the streak is going to continue, as I think we're going to lose in week one, and the streak is going to continue past the 10-year mark. This Friday will make it exactly 1 decade since the Colts last won a week 1 game. I did give a prediction for Anthony Richardson's stat line. I have him going 12 of 22 passing for 180 yards and two touchdowns. One touchdown is going to come on the ground. The other is going to be a touchdown to Evan Hull out of the backfield. Eli. Got a Eli in here, my co-host. Yes, this is definitely saw this. Cooper Kupp is out. That's huge. I mean, he had injury problems last year. Fantasy owners out there, you might want to think twice before taking him early. And yeah, Josh Dobbs is starting for the Cardinals. Cardinals are going to be a disaster. We talked about that on the podcast yesterday. Not really a whole lot there. I honestly, I really could see them going 0-17. I'm not even joking. This team is just horrible top to bottom. But going back to Anthony Richardson's stat line, 12 of 22 passing, 180 passing yards, about 40 rushing yards, one passing touchdown to Evan Hull out of the backfield, one rushing touchdown. That's how the Colts are going to be. Also have him throwing one interception as well. So again, up and down day for AR, but should be an interesting one. That's like a 55% completion percentage. It doesn't sound great. We know AR didn't really have that great of a completion percentage in college. It's going to take some time for that to improve. Remember, Lamar Jackson had like a 58% completion percentage his rookie year. Josh Allen barely over 50% in his rookie year. Completion percentage accuracy can be improved. Shane Steichen said it himself. So I feel pretty confident saying that. So yeah, join me. So thank you guys all for watching. Join me next week. Next Wednesday on the Horseshoe Show for the recap of Week 1 and for the preview of Week 2 when the Colts travel to Houston, Texas to take on the Texans and CJ Stroud. Join Eli and I next Tuesday for our Week 1 recap on the 12 Horseshoe Podcast. Got a very nice viewership for yesterday's episode, so thank you guys so much and keep that up. Join Eli and I on the call this Saturday for the same for some more high school football and Surge Sports as Hawthorne takes on St. Mary's in Rutherford. Also, go check out Eli on Sports Mono on Saturday mornings. They interviewed Arto Okal last week, so if you didn't see that, and if you have some spare time, check that out. This Saturday's episode, 9 a.m., so make sure you get up early for that one. All right, thank you, everyone, for watching. For the latest episode of The Horseshoe Show, this is Jack Rizzo signing off on Surge Sports TV, and go Colts. Bye.